The phrase less is more does not apply better in any other era of music than it does right now because so many artists and rappers are dropping albums with 20 plus songs, and it is having a negative impact on the listeners because even if you look at this stat from Statista, which is actually a database company, 54% of global consumers listen to fewer albums than they did 5 or 10 years ago. And it's not because people are listening to less music, because with every growing year, there's more and more people on these streaming platforms, but people aren't that much into albums anymore.
Yeah, and this conversation is really interesting because we've tackled this before on Is Trap Music Dying, and then we brought it into why albums are forgettable, but we never actually dove into the science behind it and like why aren't artists dropping these optimized albums anymore, and why is it going into certain areas? So there's the whole conversation of streams, there's the whole conversation of trying to supply the fans and keeping up with the demand, there's the whole conversation of, okay, listen, maybe I don't have the most shelf life as an artist, so let me try and put out as much material as I possibly can. But I find this a very interesting statistic because it's from 2019, it's pretty recent, and according to Deezer in the UK, this statistic revealed that 15% of music fans under the age of 25 have never listened to a full album experience.
And that's scary just because 20 plus song albums are pushing a generation of music listeners further away from the album experience when already they don't like listening to albums.
Okay, so let me
period.
ask you this, okay? Because it's obviously not, okay, 20 and up, now this is a bad album experience, they're getting pushed away. Because we do have good 20 plus song album experiences.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, we're going to get into like examples of recent long albums that didn't work out and also a few that did. But I mean, as you were saying, I mean, I feel like the strategy changed. I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel like if you take it back to the 90s, let's say, the goal of the artist and the label was to sell full bodies of work, right? Through CDs, through vinyl copies. Once you sold that album to a consumer, they could throw it in the trash. They don't have to ever listen to it again because you made your motherfucking $10, bro. Now it's a different strategy. Now it's 1,500 streams from an album equal to one album sale. So not only is there incentive to jam your track list with a bunch of tracks, but you also have to get those listeners to play them often.
Yeah, but I feel like now, because we're 30 years later, obviously the marketing is going to change. The way that we're selling music is going to change. But this is interesting, too, because it's not to say that album experiences are dying that automatically correlates to the music industry dying, because according to the RIAA, every single year, it seems like there's an increase of 43.9% of consumerism and revenue within these streaming platforms.
Yeah.
So people are still consuming it. Now, let's go back to the album experience conversation because obviously people don't give a fuck anymore. I mean, people under 25 years old have never listened to a full album before. So where do you think the responsibility lies? Do you think it's with the artist providing them with the album experience to listen to? Do you think it's the way that it's packaged and marketed by the labels and the management? Or do you think it's us fans that just don't have the bandwidth to get into it anymore?
It's a mixture of both, bro. Like, let's not kid ourselves. We're living in an era now where you could be so selective over what you want to listen to. You know, you have curated playlists from Spotify. You have these algorithms recommending you music. And it's a case of people want to kind of just pluck out what they want and listen to the shit that's going to give them their eargasms. That's what it is.
Well, while I do agree with you, I also think that why would you sit through a 2-hour movie when you could just get the best parts? And while I don't agree with that concept because I do like going through a full movie and at least understanding the storyline, a lot of people maybe don't have the time to be able to get into these albums, especially with, let's say, a new work culture that's in North America and around the world right now, especially after the pandemic. Like, people are in the rush. People are being forced to make money. People are forced to be stripped kind of back from their passion. So it's like, you know, at least let me hold on to it in any way I can and listen to the songs on the album rather than spending 2 hours sitting down.
I know, but like now to turn it onto the artist and label side of it, I do feel like there is responsibility on their part because the cold hard truth is that so many artists don't really care that much about the album experience and about putting together a very concise, complete thought into a project. They're more focused about the sales, about the streams, and their reputations as artists, right? Because artists don't want to flop, bro.
Yeah, but how could you
artists do not want to see that Rap
I
TV or academics post saying this artist sold 15,000 copies.
They don't.
So they're going to do everything in their power to sell the most they could.
Yes,
right.
And that's, but it's also
scary,
a marketing
bro.
tactic. It's also a marketing tactic. As an example, okay, let's take it to the new Yachty album. it's low-key his lowest selling album he's ever put out, but look at the reception of the community and look how much it's done for him as an artist. Like, I feel as if maybe Yachty feels the best out of any other release he's ever dropped right now, just because, like he said, he only wanted to be respected as an artist. So let's go through some recent drops just to go through this whole 20-plus song theory, because there is a lot of these.
Let's start off with It's Only Me by Lil Baby, and what's interesting is that a lot of people saw this as a level up for Lil Baby because he sold 216,000 copies first week. People are okay, he's doing superstar numbers, but if you go into the Spotify streams, which we're going to pull up on screen right now, you'll be able to see that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, bro, because the average amount that each song has in terms of streams is 20 million, and you'll find a lot of songs on this album that are under that 10 million streams mark. And what that tells me is that, yes, there was initial hype, but the album does not have a smash hit. I mean, the most catchy and memorable part is the whole hey hook. That's all it has. There's barely any standouts, and the album experience is below average, so nobody's going back, and it's showing.
Yes, but you know what hurts more is that, example, take the Lil Baby situation, right? Like, we came up listening to Lil Baby. We were really invested into his career. A lot of our team members have been as well, and as a fan of the music, right, you want to get quality. You want to get into an album experience. You want to have songs that you could bump over an extended period of time. Example, like, I'm still going back to My Turn. I'm still going back to Harder Than Ever. Like, I'm still going back to certain studio albums that have that value and cohesiveness. And I'm not saying that an album experience has to have a crazy storyline or it has to be one cohesive sound, but consistency is big for me. So, example, in the case of It's Only Me, what I was referencing in the review when I did it was, you go through all of those songs, they low-key sound the same, and that's the product of these long track lists.
Yeah.
How are you diversifying on 23 songs, especially if you're a Lil Baby right now?
Yeah.
Like, okay, take Lil Baby, for example. You know, he did a massive feature run. You're releasing all kinds of verses already. Everyone's hearing you. Everyone's in tune. There might be a desensitization factor at a certain
point.
What
it is kind of a lack of hunger and motivation. I mean, when you go through his performance on that album, there's not an ounce of liveliness throughout it. Not only that, but it feels like there's one singular beat of this 808 drum pattern that gets dragged across the course of the 1 hour runtime. It literally felt that way. But I want to take it to a more positive note with Logic's Vinyl Days, because this was a fucking anomaly. When you're looking at these 20-plus song albums, this album was actually 30 songs, and it's a rare exception because Logic understood what to do. What's the most crucial part of a long listening experiences is the retention, bro. It's keeping my interest from start to finish, and Logic accomplished that because he gave you these supersonic run times of songs that are mostly 2 minutes long. He introduced a lot of skits on the album, which kept your interest up. I mean, the album starts off with Morgan Freeman calling Logic the GOAT of rap. So at every turn, there's either comedic relief or there's very inventive and creative wordplay from Logic. There's Logic introducing you to brand new artists like Nezzy.
I will say this, though, is that, like, Logic could carry a 30-song album. He has the skills and capability to do so. Not only that, but his ear for beats and production is really world class.
Still not a perfect album.
It's not a perfect album, but it was greatly executed.
It was.
Like, it's really a standout within his catalog.
Because it had a consistent mood, bro.
Not only,
you had those boom bap samples that were consistently there.
Yes, but okay, but then going back to the sales, though, it's one of his worst performing albums commercially in a long time. So then it becomes a question and a game of, what are you trying to do with your career? You know, where are you at? And for Logic, I felt like, okay, like, he had gone the mainstream route for a couple of years, and he admitted to it, and he was like, you know, I was chasing those statistics. I was really engulfed into a different type of career at this point. So, yes, for someone in Logic's position after all that time, it makes sense for him to go back on more of a community feel, you know, bring all of your fan base back together, give them something that feels vintage again, go back to that sound. But, example, someone like Lil Baby, he might not be as established as someone like Logic. So, that's the thing, is that, and I know that's crazy to say, but, bro, Logic
just because it's just Baby's the bigger artist right now.
But the thing is that, bro, Logic has diamond records. Like, let's not forget that. Logic was doing easy over 100,000 first week. Like, he was one of the biggest rappers in the world. And it kind of, like, worked to his demise at a certain point, because then you got all those commercial records and it brought a taint on your name. So going back to what you were saying about the reputation, you're either fucked if you do or you don't, because then it becomes a game of, yo, you sold out and your album
but
sucks.
You also,
or then it becomes a game of, like, sheesh, dude, you did your worst first week numbers in the past past 5
There's
years.
also
You know,
a time in hip hop though where you had artists dropping albums like All Eyes on Me by Tupac, which is a double album, and it sells well, it's received well by the fans. So there is that middle ground that you could
yeah, but
find.
that hasn't happened in like 30
It hasn't.
years.
And that takes
Come
me
on.
to another example of an album that fell victim to this long album format, and that's Trippie Red's Mansion Music, which is still fresh, 25 songs. And, for a 25-song album, it has a good intro and 24 other songs. It was literally just a compilation that sounded rushed. It was a compilation filled with the standard, ordinary, industry-friendly features.
I will tell you this. There was actually an interview on Zane Lowe where he explained the concept
I know.
and why it came out. So that's the thing, is that like as the album stands,
that's not an excuse.
Well, maybe it is, because the thing is that like I've never suffered leaks. You've never suffered leaks. We've never been in that position. That's tough.
Release 13 of the best songs there.
13.
If the other ones get leaked, then
Yeah,
so
but he
be
was
it.
just like, fuck it, because he was playing on a timeline game. So while I do understand the circumstances, you were right. The quality wasn't up to par, and Trippie knows that. So, I mean, Mansion Music is a bit of a flawed thing to look at, but I want to go into something more positive, and that's Donda by Kanye West.
This is positive to you. Listen, I want to ask you this before you get into why it's positive.
Wow, Lou, jeez.
Who is running Donda from start to finish, bro? I want to meet the person that is unironically choosing to listen to television and
I'm sure there's a lot.
I want
There's
to
a lot of
I want to have
Kanye
a
fans.
conversation
There's
with
people
that person.
There's people listening to this album.
Do not tell me that album was not all fucking bloat, bro. There was a lot of bloat there.
There's bloat.
A lot of it.
But there's not a lot of bloat. There is a lot
It's
of quality
27
tracks.
songs, bro.
I
He
understand.
pretty much slapped a deluxe onto the main album.
It's still a great listen, though.
It's a great listen, but there's a lot of unnecessary tracks.
Is it not a great
It
listen?
did not make for the best Kanye West album experience. Absolutely
Yes,
not.
it could have been trimmed, but then it goes back to the same point. Like, if he's giving you fucking 15 or 16 slappers, like, all right, fuck it, I'll take the extra filler on top of that. It gets bad for me when you have an album of 23 songs and you're only getting one out of 23.
Obviously.
That's when it's bad. But the thing with Dawn that was well done is that at least there was a fuckload of good songs that I could take out of that track list, and I'm still bumping today. Songs like 24, or example, songs like Life of the Party. Like, there's so many great tracks on that album
And it
that
felt
I'm
like
still
there was
bumping this
one
year.
solid flowing idea. Like each track complemented the next.
So I'm going to forward that question back to you. Is it a positive, yes or no?
I mean, as a whole, it's a good album, but did it still suffer from what these other albums suffered from in terms of quality control and not limiting and trimming the fat off the album? No, it still had fat.
It did have fat.
I'm
But
telling
okay,
you, bro.
but it's not as I'm not saying
I
it's
have
as most,
I have not spoken to a person who can tell me that they go through that album from start to finish and enjoy every single song.
Visit the comment sections after this. I'm sure there's full of people that are going to tell you
but
otherwise.
yeah, a few other examples. Stuck in My Ways by Summers, 25 songs. YB's The Last Limetto, 30 songs. But something that's very interesting to take it to an album that was very cohesive and concise was J. Cole's The Off Season, which was only 12 songs. It ran 39 minutes. An amazing album from start to finish. And what's very interesting is this fact. Out of all the albums that went number one in 2021, The Off Season was the only rap album that had less than 15 songs and under 40 minutes length. And that tells me that, like, in this world of mainstream hip-hop, it's proof that you could have a successful album that isn't this tiring marathon.
That's very true. But the thing is that J. Cole also mastered the marketing and quality side of things and bringing those two worlds together. So it worked out nicely for him. But let's talk about the Carter 5, because this was a very interesting album, especially for Wayne's standards. So this was Wayne's first album being released in, nearly 7 years, I believe.
His first album for the streaming era, yeah?
Yeah, it was something stupid like that. And everyone around him was telling him, yo, you got to put more tracks on there because that'll get the streams up. And so he added more songs than he originally intended to. And this is a real fact. What interview did this come
I'm
from?
not sure, but it was Mac Main that was speaking about it.
And that's crazy to me because, yes, while I do understand that you got to put bread on the table, if you have to add 5 more songs, I mean, what does that really do at the end of the day?
You're competing for the charts, bro. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, and
I get it as a play. Do I get it as a fan? Not so much. But listen, there's two different types of fans. There's the type of fan that could be like, YB just gave me 30 songs. I'm eating good tonight. And then there's those of us that are more skeptical that are thinking,
you think we're just fucking nerds?
Holy shit, bro. There's a high chance of this artist misfiring because he's unloading a 30 clip.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know what I mean?
That is very true. Hey, you're coming with the analogies tonight. There we go. But
I don't know, bro.
But I think it also
tough.
comes down to I always say this in these types of narrative videos too. We're fucking nerds. So I mean, we always look at this shit in a different way, in a more analytical way,
I
because
know.
that's our job, you know? But I think that a lot of people have to be educated on what they're getting, because at the end of the day, like, yes, it may feel like, fuck, I'm getting so much, but it's low-key robbing you guys from an album experience. And I'm telling you, try it out. Like, try going through a short album and really living with it for the next couple of weeks and understanding the concept behind the art, because this is the thing. You have so much material on that album. How do you expect people to truly understand the sound and the impact of that record when they're spending, let's say, maybe only 5 to 10 spins on each of those songs, and then boom, it's on to the next, let me get another 30-song album.
How the fuck do you that actually digest a 30-song album? Like, it takes multiple fucking listens, and it's not going to connect right away. But a question that I have for you is, when do you think was the last time we had a classic rap album that was 20-plus songs in length? Because to me, bro, even if I'm looking at the more recent classic albums, I'm thinking about maybe Jay-Z's 444, which was 10 songs. Or I'm thinking of Pusha T's Daytona, which was only 7 songs. They're compact, they're cohesive, they say what they have to say, and they get out. But
how many songs was Astroworld? That's curious.
17 songs.
That's pretty good.
It's not over 20. If you look at that over 20 rule, you have maybe Drogas Wave by Lupe Fiasco, which came out in 2018, but that's not a unanimous classic. Some could argue it's a masterpiece, others wouldn't. Same thing for Big Crit's double album, Forever is a Mighty Long Time. Not everybody unanimously agrees that it's a classic or a masterpiece.
Maybe the community does.
Maybe,
I've seen a lot of
to
conversation
me,
about it.
To truly say the last time we had a classic that was over 20 songs, it was Ghostface Killah's Fish Scale, which was 27 songs, and that released back in 2006. Or you can take it to Late Registration or Carter 2. Both of those over 20 songs, both came out in 2005. So it's been nearly 20 years, in my opinion, that we've had a track list of over 20 songs that has been a classic or a masterpiece, and that means there hasn't been a single album in the streaming era over 20 fucking songs that has been a classic or a masterpiece.
Very true. But I think that
crazy to think about, bro.
It is crazy to think about. I mean, it automatically puts you in a different position when you're releasing that album, and I think that it also has kind of a negative connotation with the fans now. Listen to this, okay? So going back to, I believe it was the Logic record, actually. Last summer, I remember when he announced that track list, people were fucking skeptical. People were like, you're dropping 30 fucking songs? Like, what's going on here? Are you going to be conforming to the regular industry rules? Like, how does this make sense for you? This and that. And he's like, just wait and see how I do it. And then after that, boom, it ends up getting executed upon well. So what do you think an artist has to do in that situation? Let's say you're an up-and-coming artist. You want to get your money up. You want to get your numbers up. You want to get your monthlies up. You want to get the press up, everything. Okay, you want to drop a longer album. You want to drop a lot of material.
Bad idea. Bad idea. Like Summers. What are you doing dropping 25 songs? Your name is not hot enough to captivate a listener from that long.
Summers has a lot of heat, though, and people are enjoying the record.
Drop singles for now, bro. Run the singles game. Do what Eam Triplin is doing. He's building his hype with these fucking singles. He's making people crave that album. But I want to take the conversation in another area quick, where it's kind of like, there is proof in the pudding that shorter albums are better than longer albums. You look at something like Flower Boy, for example, right? 14 songs, it's racked up over 2 billion streams. You look at the streams on that track list, even the low-key songs have racked up over 70 or 80 million streams. And this is because people actually listen to this album. It was made to be a complete listen. Like, Tyler built a world for you to step inside of and live in from track 1 to 14.
Yeah, that's been his strategy as of late. Even something like Igor, like that's not even over 15 tracks at that point, and you go through that whole experience and you feel like you're immersed. But the thing is, again, is that we're referencing the exceptional status, right? Like we're referencing the cream of the crop when it comes to this genre and when it comes to music as a whole, like the head creators, the people that do it the best. So.
But look at it this way. Look at Denzel Curry. Look at someone like Earl Sweatshirt. They always drop between 7 to 15 track albums, and they're never over an hour. They never overstay their welcome on a track list. So, listen, I think that the times are changing. I think that us fans are speaking our voices more. And I think within the whole hip-hop community, there is that idea and that kind of stance that we need to shorten these fucking track lists.
Yeah,
I don't want to have a buffet every night where I'm throwing a bunch of options and I got to pluck out what I want and then I have heartburn, bro. Like, fuck all that. I want a 5-course meal. I want something that actually took some intention and thought, and I want to be able to digest an album properly. But listen, guys, the question goes back to you. Are you tired of these long albums? Let us know in the comments section.
I'll
Thank
still
you.
take a 19-song Kendrick album, though. All jokes aside, I'll still take Miss Around the Big Steppers. Come on,
That trimmed out a few, but it was well
that
done.
was super well executed.
Yeah.
You know? So there are the exceptions, and let me know in the comments section, what are those exceptions, if there are any. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Lou was good on the analogies today, and we'll catch you in the next one.